Tracking all the development is my colleague Sumita Karira, who's got in touch with Ajay Bisaria, who's a former Indian ambassador, to know about his views on the India-Russia trade talks. Let's get a perspective on what he had to say.
I think the Ministry of External Affairs already hinted that be a bunch of outcomes. There are a number of areas that are going to be talked about. But, in these visits, there are the traditional areas, the G2G sort of areas, which is defense, energy. This will be talked about. But also this time, there's a special focus on the trade piece. And you saw the energy at the India-Russia Trade Forum, where there is a serious deep dive conversation about increasing Indian exports, because we ended up last year with a surge in imports from Russia, a $60 billion deficit, and no good pathways of increasing our exports. So I think that is the conversation that is taking place now. How do we increase these exports? Clearly, the energy surge in imports is not permanent. Right. It's not something that will happen each year. There may be a dip in the next year because of the geopolitics, the prices, the sanctions, and so on. But the attempt is to increase the trade. And, if you compare the Russian relationship with others, like the US and so on, it's a very strong G2G relationship, but the weak link is the B2B, the P2B. In the people-to-people with the US, you have the push of 5 million odd Indo-Americans, and you have, very strong business partnerships. But here, we've had pretty much stagnating exports for a while. 10 years ago, when Modi and Putin met for the first time in 2014, they set up a vision which said that by 2025 they'll have $30 billion of trade.
And it's crossed that.
Yeah, and that was an assumption it'll grow at 7-8%. Now, through, let's say, a geopolitical accident of this surge in imports, this more than doubled. But it's still, not a balanced and sustainable increase in trade, and that, I think, is the attempt in this visit to try and have those conversations. And I think there would be a strong opportunity for Indian business in the post-war Russia and Ukraine scenario, because, both these countries might need a lot of reconstruction, might see capital coming in. There could be a lot of business going on there.
So when you talk about, the resumption of more business or perhaps fixing this trade deficit that Russia has with India, and of course you did mention about the Russia-Ukraine war as well. As we speak, there is, attempt by the Donald Trump administration to mediate, to bring about an end to the war. Will it be safe to assume then that the Eurasia Agreement, the EAEU Agreement for which talks happened last week, that will come into conclusion, that will come into effect perhaps after the war is over?
I think all these agreements are near completion. And in a way, all these agreements are linked to the Russia-Ukraine war. Now, whether we talk of the India-US agreement, where we face a 25% extra duty because of the Russian oil issue, or the India-EU conversation, where the EU is looking very carefully at this visit, or even the Asian Economic Union, I think each one is dependent, and that's sort of the revenge of geopolitics, right? It's not all about geoeconomics. So this will be a factor, but clearly the war is at an end game point. It's at a sensitive point. There is a surge in battlefield activity,